Imagine you're on the adventure of a lifetime, sailing solo across the vast blue ocean. The sun is warm, the wind is perfect, and the world is your oyster. For one man in his 40s, this dream turned into an unimaginable nightmare. This is the incredible story of a man who was kidnapped by pirates and left for dead on a deserted island, but refused to give up. Our story begins with Michael, an experienced sailor who decided to take a year off from his desk job to circumnavigate the globe. He'd spent years planning, saving, and preparing his boat, the Serenity. The first few months were pure bliss. He sailed through crystal-clear waters, visited remote islands, and met fascinating people. But as he navigated through the treacherous waters off the coast of Southeast Asia, a region known for modern-day piracy, his dream voyage took a dark and sudden turn. One moonless night, a small, fast-moving vessel appeared out of nowhere. Before Michael could even react, armed men were climbing aboard his boat. They were pirates. They spoke a language he didn't understand, but their intentions were terrifyingly clear. They ransacked the Serenity, taking everything of value: his electronics, his food, his fresh water, and all his navigation equipment. But they didn't just rob him, they blindfolded him, tied him up, and threw him onto their own boat. For what felt like an eternity, Michael was held captive. He was given just enough food and water to survive, but the fear was constant. He had no idea where they were taking him or what they planned to do. Then one day, the boat stopped. They dragged him ashore, cut his ropes, and shoved him onto a sandy beach. As their boat sped away, disappearing over the horizon, a horrifying realization washed over him. He was completely alone, stranded on an uninhabited island, with nothing but the clothes on his back. The first few days were a blur of panic and despair. The island was small, maybe a square mile of dense jungle surrounded by rocky coastline. He had no food, no water, no tools, and no way to signal for help. The vast empty ocean stretched out in every direction. It would have been easy to surrender, to just lie down on the sand and wait for the end. But Michael was a survivor. He was a father, a husband, and he had a life to get back to. That thought, the image of his family, became his anchor. He knew his first priority was water. Remembering skills he'd learned from survival shows and books, he started exploring the dense jungle. The heat was suffocating, and insects buzzed around him relentlessly. After hours of searching, his hope dwindling, he stumbled upon a small stream of murky water trickling down some rocks. It wasn't clean, but it was life. He used a large leaf to collect it, carefully filtering it as best he could. It was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted. With his thirst quenched, his next challenge was food. The ocean was full of life, but catching fish without any gear seemed impossible. He tried spearfishing with a sharpened stick, but failed repeatedly. He scoured the jungle for edible plants, but his knowledge was limited, and he was terrified of eating something poisonous. Hunger gnawed at him. Days turned into a week, and his body grew weak. He found himself eating insects and small lizards, whatever he could catch. It was disgusting, but it kept him alive. His greatest breakthrough came from a simple observation. He noticed small crabs scuttling along the shoreline at low tide. They were fast, but he was patient. He spent hours building a small rock trap in a tidal pool. The next morning, he found 2 small crabs caught inside. He managed to create a spark by striking 2 rocks together, using dry moss as tinder. After countless attempts, a tiny flame flickered to life. Cooking those crabs over his small fire was a victory that reignited his spirit. Shelter was another necessity. The nights were cold, and the tropical rains were relentless. He used fallen palm fronds and branches to build a crude, lean-to shelter against a rock face. It wasn't much, but it offered protection from the elements and a small sense of security in a place that was utterly hostile. Day in and day out, his life became a routine of survival: find water, hunt for food, maintain his fire, and improve his shelter. But the mental toll was perhaps the hardest part. The isolation was crushing. He would talk to himself, just to hear a voice. He would shout at the empty ocean in frustration. He carved the number of days he'd been stranded into a piece of driftwood: 10 days, 20 days, 30 days. Hope began to fade. He would scan the horizon for hours every single day, praying for a ship, a plane, anything. But there was only the endless blue. He nearly gave up many times. One day, after a terrible storm destroyed his shelter and put out his fire, he collapsed on the beach, weeping. He was exhausted, starving, and felt completely defeated. But as he lay there, he saw a turtle slowly making its way up the beach to lay its eggs. Watching this ancient, determined creature, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. Life was resilient. Life was precious. He had to keep fighting. He rebuilt his shelter, stronger this time. He perfected his fishing and trapping techniques. He even found a small patch of wild yams, a reliable source of carbohydrates. He learned the rhythm of the island, its tides, its creatures, its weather. He was no longer just a visitor. He was part of it. The island that was once his prison had become his home, albeit a temporary one. On his 47th day on the island, something changed. As he was doing his daily horizon scan, he saw it, a tiny speck. At first, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. But it grew larger. It was a boat, a fishing trawler, chugging slowly along in the distance. Adrenaline surged through him like a lightning bolt. This was his chance, his only chance. He ran to his signal fire, which he kept ready at all times, and piled on green leaves to create thick black smoke. He grabbed a piece of reflective debris he might have found washed ashore and began flashing it frantically towards the boat. He screamed until his voice was raw, waving his arms like a madman. Minutes felt like hours. Was he too far away? Did they see him? The boat seemed to continue on its course, and his heart sank. He kept signaling, his energy draining, tears of desperation streaming down his face. And then, the boat turned. It changed course, heading directly for his island. The moment the fisherman pulled him from the water is a memory Michael says will be seared into his mind forever. They were shocked to find a man, gaunt and weathered, but very much alive. They gave him water, food, and wrapped him in blankets. Michael couldn't stop crying, a flood of relief and gratitude washing over him. He had done it. He had survived. His journey back to civilization was surreal. The world he re-entered was loud, fast, and overwhelming. But the moment he was reunited with his family, the world snapped back into focus. The hugs, the tears, the disbelief in their eyes. It made every second of his ordeal worth it. Michael's story is a powerful testament to the human spirit's will to live. He faced the worst of humanity in his pirate captors and the worst of nature on that deserted island. Yet through ingenuity, resilience, and an unbreakable desire to see his family again, he overcame it all. It's a stark reminder that even in our darkest, most isolated moments, hope can be the one thing that keeps us fighting. Thank you so much for watching. If you were inspired by Michael's incredible story, please hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing tales of survival. Let us know in the comments what you think you would have done in his situation. See you in the next video.